This video will be about solving equations that have fractions. So when you're solving an equation that has a fraction, our ultimate goal is to get rid of the fraction because we don't like working with them. So I'm going to show two kind of side by side because it'll show kind of a difference between how we interact with these two things. So I'm actually going to change, that's an A, but to me it looks like a 9, so I'm going to change that to an X, just so we don't get confused. Now both of these have a divide by 7 in them. Both equations do. So these are two separate things. I'm going to put a squiggle to show, hey, these are two separate equations. And they both have divide by 7. And when we're working with equations that have fractions, the way we get rid of the fraction is multiply. So on both of them we would have to multiply by 7. The question is, where do we multiply by 7? So normally we would just say everywhere, but that can be confusing on this first one. Because the divide by 7 touches both the x and the 3, we only put 1 times 7 on the left side. On the second one, because the divide by 7 only is attached to the 2 and the p, we also have to multiply 10 by 7. And then on both of them we have to multiply the other side by 7. So we have to make sure to multiply everything by 7, but if the divide sign is touching a whole bunch of things, when we say everything, that kind of counts as one thing. So when we multiply, the whole point is to cancel and get rid of that divide sign. So here we would just be left with x plus 3. On the other side, there's nothing to cancel, so we have to actually multiply. 4 times 7 is 28. Then we cancel over here. 7 and 7 cancel, leaving us with just the 2 and the p. 7 times 10 is 70. And 8 times 7 is 56. So now on both of these, we start just solving them like we would a normal equation. With our equations, we have to do opposite operations. So on the left side, to get rid of a plus 3, the opposite is minus 3. So we bring down the x, we get 28 minus 3 is 25. That one is finished. On the other one, we're still doing opposites. The opposite of minus 70 is plus 70. So we get 2p equals 126. Now this time we're not done because there's still the 2 in front of the p. So now we need to do the opposite of dividing, opposite of multiplying, which is dividing. So we need to divide both sides by 2. So just like here, the 2 over 2 canceled. That's what happened up above. The 7 over 7 canceled. So that gives us p equals 126 divided by 2 is 63. So we can add in a little more complications by maybe including some parentheses. So again, we want to multiply by whatever is dividing. Since we're dividing by 4, we want to times by 4. Again, when we say multiply by everything, that can kind of be misleading. Because the 3/4 is attached to this entire thing by parentheses, on the left side we only include 1 multiply by 4. On the right side, there's no parentheses or no divide sign, so we have to multiply each individual term by 4. So the 4 over 4 cancels. We're left with 3 parenthesis 8p minus 20. On the right side, 7 times 4 is 28. P times 4 is just 4p. Now we have to distribute the 3 in since there were some parentheses. 3 times 8p, 3 times 8 is 24p. 3 times 20 is negative 60. The right side just stays the same. We weren't distributing the 3 to the right side because those were not in the parentheses. Only the 8p and the 20 were in the parentheses. Now we have an equation with variables on both sides. So we need to do the opposite. If this is plus 4p over here, we need to do the opposite, which is minus 4p. That gives us 20p. Bring down the minus 60. Bring down the 28. Opposite of minusing 60 is adding 60. So 20p equals 88. And now we divide by 20. 88 divided by 20, this one's going to be a decimal for our answer, would be 4.4. It's possible they also may want your answer as a fraction. If we were to leave it as a fraction instead of a decimal, at the point where we get p equals 88 over 20, we'd have to reduce this fraction. We'd have to say, okay, what divides into both 88 and into 20? Well, I know both of those divide by 2, so that would give me 44, because 88 divided by 2 is 44. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Looks like we can reduce again, because both of these will divide by 2 again. That would give me 22 over 5. And now there's nothing left that would divide into both 22 or 5. So this is our answer in decimal form. This is the same answer, but as a fraction. So, when we're working through these problems, we multiply every term by the bottom of the fraction. But we have to remember some exceptions. If we had something like this, when we multiply by 7, instead of doing times 7 here, times 7 here, because we have this divide sign underneath both things, we only put 1 7 out front. The second exception was when we had parentheses. When we times by 3, again, we don't put times 3 with each term. We do not do that. We only put times 3 out front and times 3 on the other side. So hopefully that is helpful. I know working with fractions is fairly difficult. They're kind of hard to master. So if you have any questions, please let me know.